Hello everyone and welcome to the fall season tier list. This is going to be the beginning of the season, so I put 8-7 for the date that the season started practically. And yeah, we're just going to be going over everything, what units are good, what units practically fail and whatnot. And yeah, if you want a full explanation of most of the tiers, you can go ahead and watch my last video because most of it remains the same, but there's a couple of changes. For instance, New Moon Luna has become immensely stronger due to Elvira's release. Elvira's a very solid DPS for aggro and cleave players, so she is here and with the ability to do massive amounts of damage and have a steal in her kit. Characters like Vermeer has just gotten released. This character is a really good turn 2 bully because she turns the match into a 3v4. Meaning if your opponent does not have very strong picks, like absolutely back-breaking picks, Vermeer is going to steal the show because it's going to make it a lot harder for you to do things. BDOM went up because of the fact that she is probably one of the only somewhat reliable counter picks into RNL, and RNL is a monstrously good unit. She is ridiculously annoying to deal with, especially because she's such a very safe cleave unit DPS. So because of this, BDOM is going up higher, but it is not always 100% a good answer, and you're going to need a good build on the character. Characters like Ovid Ludwig we have here has gotten significantly got released, and he is definitely a strong character. He has block. He has very fast cycling, and his pop damage is immensely large. I think his only weakness is maybe if he gets his souls taken away, but even so, it's still a boatload of damage that you have to take in from Ludwig. And then other characters in this tier for our DPS, Low got buffed, and she is probably the only unit on the balance patch that realistically made it out. And the damage reduction is very good for your team, and otherwise she is somewhat of a good killer for evasion if you're trying to fight Arbiter Vildred or Arnell, as long as you have Thorn of the Blue Rose. If you do not have Thorn of the Blue Rose, LQC's use case changes, and she becomes a bit worse because you don't have the ability to soul burn on the first turn. Arwell is probably the second best Arius Knight in the game right now, compared to Estelle. The 40% escort is basically what Estelle has, so it makes her comparable to her. And although they do serve different cases in terms of protection, Arwell is still very good because of the amount of protection she can provide, as long as you have Estelle's artifact Little Friend, as well as providing barriers, as well as having very high ER, which makes her somewhat good into some debuffers notewords. I say somewhat because there is a possibility that you won't get tagged for the most part, especially if you're in ER role, but if they have a lot of F, there's probably a chance that you can get tagged with Arwa. But for some of the low range debuffers that are not hovering the 200 plus range, Arwa is actually pretty good into them because you should have enough ER to resist. Characters like Bellion is just very strong because Cleave is very strong right now. She's very much a counterpick character, and for that reason Bellion is like very high because she's the only character in the game that can reliably completely shut down soul generation for the fast and aggro players. Now Arya can do the same thing while providing ER, but she doubles soul costs on like burns, so they can still have souls. So if they do something like take New Moon Luna plus Elvira on book, they can get through your Arya, which is the reason why Bellion is still better than Arya for that situation, because they can't book stack you in order to bypass the mechanic that you're trying to do. While for instance with Arya, if you're trying to take her as a main stake to block souls, if they start stacking books, it becomes a problem. Now on the note of Bellion being really strong, it also made Frida a very strong unit. Now I had her very low before, she's probably should be in the B tier now, because she has been used by KHM when it's the Cleave in order to have a bridge, as well as something to bypass Bellion, because Bellion gets picked quite a lot to try to block off souls. With Frida plus RNL, it makes it so you get to get your free death break and then just wipe the team. Now, I didn't speak about Nodos because, I mean, Nodos is Nodos. Nodos, unfortunately, is just one of the strongest DPS or anchors in the game, where if he presses buttons, you go bye-bye. And it's still very much a problem for turn 2, and if you watch the infographic, he had a near 75% win rate. Sorry, near 75% ban rate for the season. And he is still very much a little bit problematic to fight. It's just like, there's every answer you can take into him is not 100% reliable. There are ways to beat him, it's just not always reliable. Like, for instance, Blue Lua should be sitting somewhere in the B or A tier. She could work into Nodos as long as you land your debuffs. And Lua's EE is honestly pretty good for her, which would take her from being very low into like B or A tier. I didn't know exactly where to put her, because if you do, she does require some speed to use. It's kind of the same thing with Flitica. Flitica did get buffed, but she is like, you know, you have to land your stuff. But generally this S tier is mostly the same as my last tier list, and the S tier got the most amount of moves, and then the A tier is roughly the same. I think frame rate is on the border of dropping. She used to be very, very good, but she's been just getting dropped lower. It's harder to play her, especially when you're getting cleaved, and it's harder to play her into turn 2 players due to Biblis. So it's all in all just very hard to play Freyrin. And she's probably going to continue to drop as long as they keep making characters that can easily damage squishy characters like Freyrin. So that's pretty much all you can really do for that. Now, I don't know what else moved. I think Harsetti is another character we can talk about. As long as Zio is not open or they don't have room to pick Zio, Harsetti is a very good option into these aggro players. For Harsetti, I would just like to say for this unit, she's just very good, especially on weakening set, because if your opponent is just playing a bunch of cleave and they just leave Harsetti open, well, you just crown stun them. That's kind of the best way you can fight them. And this is the same reason why Red Politis had went up into A tier, because this character can be played on weakening set with Abyssal Crown. And this arguably makes her very, very good, because, well, you just stun them. And it's kind of a really weak win condition, but it's something that can just help you edge yourself towards a win. So it's the main stake that she's very good. And Krusty is kind of this another way to try to defend against cleave with just a ton of ER. With strong debuffers like Ludwig, Arnell, Olvera, just a lot of these cleave units just having debuffs in their kits to help edge themselves to a win. Krusty helps mitigate that with the ER. Now, of course, if they have ignore ER mechanics, it makes it a bit hard for you to take this route, but as long as you have something like a Bellion still in the game, you could still try to ER cheese to a win. So this is pretty much my list. I know I was a little bit jumpy with it, but a lot of this stuff I kind of explained in my last video, so I didn't want to go too much into it. I do think the only thing I could probably talk about last is most certainly Ruel. Ruel was a really, really strong unit, and she kind of just, if you have Arena open, you can't really pick her. She just gets S2'd, which will death break her, and then take down her HP, and then you press S3 with Arena, and then you immediately lose a life, and it makes her really hard to play Ruel. Same thing with Ludwig being in the game. The block and getting your entire team blown up from the S1 pop is just really hard to deal with. And another one is Arbiter Vildred, doing additional damage to light units. Well, if your Ruel does have mitigation, and even if she has mitigation, the Arbiter can be played on photogenic. So due to that, RB presses S3 and you get blown up, and you completely lose your Ruel's first life, which kind of like defeats the purpose of you picking her in the first place. Because you pick her because she has this revive, but If you just get completely blown up on your first turn, there's nothing much that you can defend against. But yes, that is pretty much it. Most of the stuff remains the same. Odd, I think, is just okay. The Dark Harvest became very good. Yeah, most of the stuff is pretty much the same. So I'll leave it there. And once again, you can take a look at the rest of the bottom tiers here, in case you missed it, but pretty much you're only gonna be looking at these top tiers anyways. So anyways, have a good one. Catch you guys in the next one.